Yo, ladies and gentlemen, 10th. Coming up on the Braves Sports Network, another edition of Inside Braves Athletics. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, Braves defensive coordinator Deion Roberson joining us to talk about the defense. We'll break down all three levels of the defense. And long days here with the camp, a couple of weeks in. School starts next week. Will things change in terms of the schedule? We'll talk all about it. We'll talk about the defense. We'll take your questions, your comments, and your text. We'll take a 30-second break. We'll be right back inside Braves Athletics on the other side.
Some names immediately evoke an uncommon sense of family, an unmistakable sense of character, an undeniable sense of legacy. Always. Where trailblazers and innovators chart new paths of possibility. Where academic rigor empowers the strength of character to lead with knowledge and integrity. It's a name that harkens back to over 150 years of truly making a difference in our world. Always Alcorn.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are live inside Braves Athletics. I'm Charles Edmond. Glad you can join us. Football season is right around the corner. Before you know it, we'll be in Natchitoches, Louisiana, taking on Northwestern State. 2 weeks and 2 days away. We get the season underway. Glad you could join us. Braves defensive coordinator Deion Roberson joining us talking about the defense. And we've got some questions already in. You can join the conversation. You can text a question 601-301-2611 on X Tall Man Radio. We appreciate all the comments and all of the support. Next Monday, we will be in Vicksburg at the Rooftop, downtown Vicksburg at 6 o'clock. Cedric Thomas will join us, the 1871 Collective. We'll talk with J.J. Smith and whoever else is in the house. We'll be talking about the Collective. We'll talk Braves football as we, at that point, will be a week and change away. Next Wednesday, there'll be the final walkthrough in the scrimmage at Jack Spinks Marino Cassim Stadium at 6 o'clock. That'll be the final walkthrough as we have a Thursday night game, of course. So next Wednesday will be the big scrimmage at Jack Spinks Marino Cassim Stadium. But between now and then, a lot of work to do. And to talk about the defense is defensive coordinator Deion Roberson joining us. Coach, we appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you for having it. I just got to make one correction. It's Roberson, not Roberson.
Roberson, Deion Roberson.
It's coming. Everybody do it.
But when I hear people say Coach Rowe, and I think that's kind of where I got that. But obviously, Coach Deion Roberson. I want to make that correction. You got on the shirt, Coach Gas, GAS, and I'm sure it's a lot of gas being expended here in fall camp so far.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Them boys really working their tails off to put together a great product for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's so much that you're trying to get in a short period of time. We were talking about your schedules. This is a camp life, and I was reading a quote from Florida A&M coach James Colsey. He was talking about this being the dog days of camp. Yep. Would you say that this is the dog days of camp right now?
No doubt, especially when you can kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel, when the guys know that first day of school is kind of around the corner. I think we like 15 practices in, 13 practices in right now. Those legs start to get heavy. Those hamstrings start to tighten up. Those fingers start to, get brittle. Real football players know those fingers usually the first to go. But things like that. And now we're kind of slowly scaling back, getting to that normal in-season vibe of trying to get these dudes' legs right and trying to get their body back on track for this long 14-game, hopefully, stretch that we about to go on.
Yeah, there's a tough balance between going hard and not going hard and going soft, and you're just this balance. Football is not easy. It's hard. Some teams are practicing in the afternoon. Some are practicing at night. You guys are going at 7:15 in the morning, starting off with that. Just talk about trying to balance out at this point in time, going hard, slowing down, knowing that you got a game in 2.5 weeks. I'm sure there's a lot going on there trying to put all that together.
Well, the culture of this football team is toughness. Nothing else. Our guys are super tough. So they want to work. At the end of the day, you pull these dudes out, or you try to sit a guy here, a guy there. They don't want to do it. They want to go. They want to go to work, and that's the testament to our head coach. That's what he instills in the guys, and that's the what we go by as a staff. We toe that line, and the guys are right there behind us, so they love it. They love it. But we got to do it as coaches. We got to kind of set that template as whatever Coach Thomas wants, how he feel, and how he see his team going. We kind of all fall in line, and shoot, it's worked out for us. We feel like it's working so far. The guys are working hard, but at the same time, we're finding little spots here and there to kind of get them back into season shape, I would say.
Is it my imagination, or the team is really vocal? It's really competitive out there just about every day. Guys kind of going at it in a good way, in a competitive way, the competitive spirit. Is it my imagination, or is this about as competitive as I've seen it here in a little bit?
It's like that when it's good on good. It don't matter if the 1, 2s, 3s, or 4s out there. Them dudes competing. From the punter to the snappers to the place kickers to the kickoff spots. Everybody on this team has somebody or two guys behind them that's pushing them. And when you got that or able to have that on your football team, it's nothing more you can really ask for, because they all pushing each other and it's all healthy competition. The guys talk trash, but they know with certain lines that we don't cross here. So they find the best way to get that trash talking moment in the best way possible. Also to motivate our guys to even go harder. So it's competition at the end of the day, and that's what you want as a good football team, competition.
Yeah, football is a brutal sport. I mean, and
Yeah.
everyone's trying to compete for a position. You got a lot of guys on this roster, a lot of guys on your side of the football trying to get some work in, trying to get some reps in, trying to put some stuff on film. As we talk about the roster and we talk about the defensive side of the ball, I mean, just talk about the level of competition amongst your guys. I mean, on the back end, in the middle, and of course the defensive line.
I mean, you look at the back end, I think we got probably 5 or 6 corners right now that we think go out there and be really, really good football players for us. Same thing at the safety spot. It's still an ongoing battle at the safety spot right now. We went out there tomorrow. We got some guys who we know can go out there and get the job done. But you're just talking about from a competition standpoint, who's that guy? Who's that guys who's, kind of rising to the top? And it's 2 or 3 or 4 guys that on the roof right now who trying to rise to the top. Same thing in nickel. Probably nickel and corners are our 2 deepest positions right now. We got 3 really, really good nickels in Mikael McLaurin and Brent Barnes and J-Bo, who's actually a walk-on. But one thing about being a walk-on at Alcorn State, if you can play football, you can play football. We're going to give you opportunity not only to play, but to earn money. You come on and you walk on here. We're not going to throw you to the side. We're going to treat you just like any other athlete here at Alcorn State University. We're going to give you opportunity. And J-Bo is really making the most of that opportunity. Same thing, a linebacker. I got, of course, Steve and Jaquez Dew coming back. Stamarian Edwards and Jaquez Dew coming back from last year. 2 big impact guys. But also Sid Roberts. You're talking about a sophomore, probably 6'3", 230 right now, who's running around, and he chased down a receiver running up the sideline just yesterday. And you talking about long and athletic, man. He's going to be the future of the program, of course, with a couple other guys in the same class as him. And Jaron Griffin, he's also in that conversation. Derek Senegal, Dylan Crowell, all those guys are working their tail off, and that's just inside backer. So, I got about 4 or 5, 6 guys there also that, are chomping at the bits to kind of get in that mix of those guys. And again, the competition at every position. You got Eric Thomas, you got Tobias Hinton, you got Kenya McCanstry, you got Brendan Gibson, you got Jaquel Irving, D-line, man. Oh my God, that's probably one of my favorite groups. Of course, as a D coordinator and a linebackers coach, that D-line, man, is really the engine that makes this whole thing go. And Coach Cub is doing a phenomenal job with the guys that he has. You're talking about getting bigger and better. If that's doesn't ring true to any other position, it rings true for defensive line this year. So defensive line, they're bigger, they're better. They're well taught, and I think the addition of Alvin Fossman to the outside linebackers coach position has really took that outside linebacker spot to a whole new level. So I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Well, you talk about opportunities. You were given an opportunity to become the defensive coordinator. Talk a little bit about that, Coach. What you learned about yourself, being the defensive coordinator in the first year. Cedric Thomas handed you the keys to the defense, being a former defensive coordinator himself, now the head coach in the second season. You're the defensive coordinator for the second season. What did you learn about yourself in that position in the first season?
The biggest thing is, it's just a seat. You never stop learning as a coach. The day you stop learning as a coach and as a teacher is the day you fall off and you lose. So I'm still learning. I try to, not be the same guy Coach Thomas was, but at the same time, that's my mentor, one of my best mentors I've had. So just trying to lead this group the right way. It's different because I'm the head coach of the defensive side of the ball. Coach Thomas let me run it his way or let me run it my way. But I'm always in his office. I'm always talking to him. Hey, Coach, what'd you do in this situation? How do you prepare? How did you prepare going into a week like this? What are your procedures or your timeline on how you break down film? What are you looking at? Just to learn and get better. I'm actually going through the process now of going all through last season and seeing my calls. I'm going back through my notes from last year. I got a notebook with every note I took from games last year. So I'm going back through those game notes, seeing what I thought going into that game and how it played out on the screen. And I had a big learning curve. Coach gave it to me from day one. He said, "Hey, you gonna call it? It's your deal. That's your call sheet, man. You build it up the way you want to. You call what you want to do. I'm gonna still be here if you need me in the course of a game, but at the end of the day, this your side of the football." So I grew. I can tell you that, and I'm still growing. And I think this year, just going into this season, I think we'll be able to start a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, just because I'm more in tune with who I am and what I want to be in my coaching philosophy as a defense coordinator.
Well, what did Coach being around Coach Thomas? What are some of the things that he just taught you about being a leader on that side of the ball?
The kids will take the mentality of their defense coordinator and their position coach. My mentality that I take into practice every day, my mentality I take into the game situations and how I call plays. The calls that come out on game day are who I am as a coach. So just that part, translating who I am to the kids and understanding that I have to lead the pack, and my mindset will be the defensive mindset. So I always have to be aware of that.
Well, I know taking the cues from Coach Thomas, and I know you have the keys to it. What are just some of the different wrinkles as a coach? You learn from someone, but then you add your own spice. You add your own ingredients to your cake. What are some of those ingredients that you brought that added to that cake that's still in the making, as you say?
Yeah, I think no matter what you do, if you're the guy, on the passenger side and you watching somebody drive, you say, "Ooh, I probably would have made a left right there." You watching
Yeah.
somebody bake a cake, you like, "Ooh, I probably would have put a little bit more vanilla extract in that thing," or something like that. So as the years under him, learning the system, also as a player learning the system, I got my notebook over here. When he say something, that was law. And I wrote it down, but also in quotations, I wrote, "Hey, this could in the future be a good add-on to this deal." I think I'll probably be a slight bit more aggressive in my play calling this year than I was last year. We're gonna be because we're a little bit faster, we're a little bit longer. I'm a little bit better on the edge, but it all come down to the mental game of it. I think mentally, not only have I matured, but my side of the ball has matured mentally. So I better put a little bit more on those guys than I did last year.
Well, what I see between you and Coach Thomas when he was DC and you being DC in your second year, there's a lot of fire and brimstone in Cedric Thomas on that sideline when he was DC. You're
Yeah.
kind of different. You're kind of the opposite. I mean, there were times that I see you kind of raise your voice and get after it, but for the most part, you're kind of a little bit different in that aspect. The players
Yep.
still get the message, but the tone is a lot different.
I'm more of a Coach Thomas is a fiery guy. You know, that's his
Yeah.
personality. That's who he is, and we all love him for it. The kids love him. The coaches love him. I'm more of a mental guy. I like to analyze what's going on. I'm kind of analytical. I want to know the numbers. I want to know where they're outflanking us at. If I need to add numbers or go to these play calls, so I'm always processing information. But when it's time, you know, and I need to light a fire under those guys that might not be lit, I know how to light a pilot light. I know how to get the matches out. You know, get that little long stick, that stick lighter. Um, I definitely get that stick light out and light that pilot light. I tell guys all the time, man, you risk your life, you risk your body, your limbs for this. If I gotta go out here and cuss you out every day to get you to run fast to the ball, you probably in the wrong program or the wrong profession. Like, we do this for fun. We love this. You got to love football to do what we're doing right now. You talk about those 17, 16-hour days in training camp. Don't waste days, man. You're doing it for a reason, because in the middle of the season, we talking about a 14-game stretch. You're going to look back on those training camp days, those long nights in the gym and walkthroughs, those long, 2.5 hour practices. You're going to look back and let that fuel your fire. But I definitely get those matches out at any point in time if I need to.
Well, I tell you what, you talk about the long days. Not only are you're doing stuff on the field, but also you're on campus. You're in the cafeteria. As coaches,
Yep.
you're responsible for these football players in terms of what they do. You're not around them all the time, but in the cafeteria, in the dorm, you've got to make sure everybody's in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and our guys do a good job of that. We haven't received one disciplinary action on the other side of campus this whole, probably since the spring, I want to say. The end part of spring, we haven't got any calls from cross campus. But I stay on campus, and that's a selling point I tell my parents when they drop their young men off here as recruits, or first day students or transfers. Like, hey, I live right behind the calf, right behind the calf parking lot. If you can't find your son in time to manner, best believe I can be over in the dorm in less than 25 steps if need be. So I'm here for the guys, but at the same time, if they need a fan for the room, or they need a water bottle at 2 o'clock in the morning, they know they can pull up over there at my little house and I have whatever they need. If not, then I'm willing to go get it.
We're talking with Braves defensive coordinator Deion Roberson. We appreciate the comments. Our producer Cedric Tillman, as well as Jamario Brooks. We appreciate the comments that have come in. So, Coach, talking about your defense, you kind of broke down the personnel. Wanted to get into that a little bit more. We're going to start with the defensive line, Coach. Talk a little bit about your D line and overall your defense, points per game, number 7 from a year ago. Just the numbers. I know you're a numbers guy. What would you like to improve on from your defense from last year to this year? You talked about this being your first year, getting the keys to the car. You look at the games, you look at the season. We had some good moments. We got some good stops. We got some big stops. But statistically, what would you like to improve on, and what did you see from your defense in that regard?
Getting all 11 guys going in the right direction every time. That's the standard. And I think last year was too many times where 1 or 2 guys every play was just not where they supposed to be. From the D line to the back end, that was the constant problem. Yeah, we make a lot of plays, but I'm one of those guys, like, we need to execute. And if we execute, then it won't be I think we averaged over 20 points a game last year. It shouldn't be that. That's not the standard. I think if we were we supposed to be more times than we're not, we're going to be a hard beat on defense.
Yeah, there were some games like, the Southern game. We kind of held them there in the first half. The Grambling game, we came up with some big stops. So there was some shining light there throughout the course of last season.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But again, we talking about being consistent. You got to be consistent to be the champ. I tell my guys all the time, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And the 2 guys that came out last year, Southern and Jackson State, you look at all those categories on defense, they was 1 and 2. So it correlates. You want to be a winner, you got to be at the top of those stats. A lot of coaches don't like bringing up stats, but I'm a stats guy. Sacks, TFLs, not giving up points, that leads to being number 1. number one defense usually make the championship game, no matter what level you're on. So to be number one, we gotta execute. We gotta make plays like we're number one.
Is it me, or in the past, this conference has been so offensive in terms of, 'cause
Hmm.
they talk about the quarterback scoring points. And yeah, there were some teams that were scoring points. But then you look at Alabama State's defense. I mean, they were lights out. Jackson's defense. Is this you? And you've been in this league as a coach and as a former player. You look at the SWAC now, do you think the SWAC is still an offensive conference, or do you see it transitioning into more of a defensive minded conference? Because the quarterback play is what it is. I mean, we've had great quarterbacks come through this league, but it seems like, at least at SWAC football media day, wasn't talked about as much, the quarterback position. It's more about ground and pound, running the football, defense. Are we beginning to see, you think, in your opinion, that the SWAC is becoming more of a defensive conference than an offensive conference?
Well, if I had to be honest with you, Mr. Charles, I think the coaching in the SWAC has gotten a lot better. So the execution on defense has gotten a lot better. Recruiting has got a lot better in the conference. So it's not a one sided affair anymore, because you go find, people say you can go turn over any rock and find a good skill player on offense if you look hard enough. But I think the bridge to those gaps now is through coaching. You look around the league, there's some really good coaches in this league that might get overlooked by a lot of places that they ended up here in the SWAC, or homegrown SWAC guys who've been there or in the SWAC conference their whole life, like myself, who's grown. So the product is a lot better on at every team. So I just think that the bridge between offense and defense being dominating in this conference kind of closing off, and it's just more about good coaching and more and higher quality players.
Mm. And yeah, and with the transfer portal and with NIL and
Hmm.
rosters changing, how is that? How did you go into that during the off season? You talked about improving your defense. What was your mentality as you try to rebuild? We had some players coming back. We lost Malachi Bailey, and so you had to rebuild some of that stuff. What is your philosophy, and what was your philosophy in the off season in terms of building this defense through the portal, through youngsters? How did you look at that on the defensive side?
Of course, what everybody say, you got to find the right culture fits. They can be a really good player, Mr. Charles, but if they're not fitting that tough mentality, that fast mentality as we call it, they're not our guy. You can tell that by the recruiting process. We dive deep in those guys as far as their background. We call coaches, we talk to mom and dad, we talk to any handlers or trainers that they might have. We try to really get who that guy is past what we see on film. And we don't hang our head on the transfer portal. Yeah, we got some really good players out the transfer portal. But if you look at our roster, we construct on JUCO guys out of the state and high school guys that's able to graduate early, like Jacoby Anderson right there, who's a big time high school kid who's able to come here in the spring, and he's one of those four guys I talked about in that corners room who, because they're able to get here a semester earlier, their chance to get on the field and their acclimation to being in college ball is a whole lot smoother. So the way we recruit, we do recruit high school kids, but they have to come out a semester early so they'll be able to get in. So they'll be able to get that spring semester in and get ahead of the curve with the rest of the guys. We love our JUCO guys, especially our Mississippi JUCO guys. We have a lot of great relationships with JUCO coaches in around this area. So I think we almost got every other player off Colin defensive roster last year. And all those guys are big helps for us. So, and we fill in spots with transfer guys. And we don't sell the farm for transfer guys. We tell guys when they come in, no matter where they're coming from, you're coming to be a part of something, man, not to be to something. And I think that's where a lot of schools are miscuing, what they're telling the guys. Hey, you're going to be the guy, you're going to be the guy. What if he shows up and your guys that you already had on the roster was better than him? Now you got a kid who thought he was going to be the 60, 70 play guy. And, he might be a 25, 30 play guy. Now you got dissent within your team and, things start falling apart the first time you take a loss. But if you got a guy you say, hey, from the jump, you come to compete, you come to be a part of something, not the something. And I think once they get in, they see the competition, they see the other guys in the room are all pretty good. Like, hey, let's go push each other. Now the culture is still the culture, and you're not losing guys because what you promised them before they even played a snap of football for you.
Well, that you brought up an interesting point. So JUCO, transfer portal, high school. Which one, if you had to rank it, 1, 2, 3? You're looking for JUCO 1, transfer 1, high school 1. How would you assess that if you had to put it in order? You're looking for the JUCO first. You're looking for the high school kid first, because this whole theory of the transfer portal, that means
Mm-hmm.
that high school seniors are kind of being shut out of the process because teams want to win right now. They want to get the experience. They want to get the talent. So if you had to rank it, is it JUCO first? Is it high school first, or is it transfers first as you kind of build your unit?
If you had to ask me, depending on what I got in house already, that's definitely always the caveat, because if you need older guys, of course, you're going JUCO or transfer. But if I already got the kind of nucleus that I have now of guys, with 2 and 3 years left, I would definitely say early enrollee high school guys. You're talking
Mm.
about guys who are going to be all corn. If they able to stay here, 3, 4, 5 years, when by the time they leave here, it's gonna be all corn, all corn, all corn. Same with the JUCO guys, Mississippi JUCO guys. They come in and it's all corn. I graduated from all corn. That's what That's what the word gonna be. And sometimes with transfer guys, you bring in a free agent, and you kind of have to indoctrinate him into what it means to be an Alcorn State Brave. You bring in high school guys, and they excited about the process, and it's a little bit more investment into the program when it's your program. Kind of like I was a high school guy, and me and my wife, we Alcorn to death because we came as freshmen. We both left All Americans and record holders and all that good stuff, but it's Alcorn. There's a lot of other people out there who didn't play a sport at Alcorn, who just Alcorn alumni or Alcorn adjacent, and they love Alcorn. And you give him a high school kid with 4 or 5 years at Alcorn, and he's going to love the program inside and out and willing to do anything for this program. So give me a high school kid, of course, early enrollee high school kid. Let me get that spring semester with them. But high school, JUCO, then transfer portal, just cherry on top.
I asked that question because all you hear is transfer, transfer, transfer,
Mhm.
and then we used to build on the John Gibbs of the world. Started as a
Yep.
freshman and played 4 years. Was a 4-year starter. I mean, the term 4-year starter. Do you
Yep.
do you think that's a dinosaur? Are we still trying to keep that alive? I mean, from a
I mean,
freshman all the way to a senior.
you try your best. You try to give the kids, the 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 you try to give the kids everything they could possibly want that you can give them out of football, whether it's football knowledge, whether it's the love that a football coach would give to his player. But at the end of the day, it's the young man's decision whether they want to stay or leave every semester. They pretty much got to make that choice, and a lot of times it ain't all the ways them that make that choice, which are the harder cases. Sometimes you got moms, dads, uncles, cousins who really don't know the landscape of that transfer portal. I'm pretty sure it's thousands of kids right now that left scholarships behind to chase, their dreams in the transfer portal. But it's a lot of guys who went in there and got the stuff that they wanted and was able to go where they wanted. But there's a lot of guys who stuck in that portal right now because of a decision that was theirs at the end of the day, but it wasn't guided right from the jump. Sometimes it's the team that they were on cut them, or they wouldn't really crack in that system, and they might have been higher and need to go lower as far as maybe from FBS to FCS. But there's a lot of guys up there who blindly getting in that portal right now who without a plan, you know. And there's some stuff going on too now with other college coaches reaching out to these kids and giving them promises that we talked about earlier. That entice the kid to get in that portal, and it ain't what it seemed to be when they get there. So the portal is the portal. You really can't do nothing about it at this point. You can only take care of the guys you got in house. You recruit your own guys every year. You recruit your own guys every year by treating them right, and telling them the truth, whether they want to hear it or not. We got this thing here. Like, we gonna tell you the truth. You gotta want to hear the truth, but we gonna tell you the truth at all times, and we just stick to it. And some kids, that's what they want. That's what they look for. And some kids don't like the truth. Some moms and dads and cousins and uncles and handlers don't like the truth.
Interesting. It's definitely a brand new world in terms of, just being honest and upfront, and in this landscape that we're in, this pay for play. I mean, I don't know if you, North Carolina Central's coach Trey Oliver said there was a coach on the sideline from a school in Virginia that literally recruited a kid off his roster and offered him money and all of that. I mean, we're kind of in a brutal time. I mean, when he shared that story, I'm like, where are we headed here?
Yeah, that's college ball. I know when I was a player, you used to hear those stories behind closed doors. You never knew if it was real or fake. But these days, hey, if you got it, you can give it. Here at Alcorn State University, we give you all the emotional support that we can possibly give you. But when that guy from this so school, quote unquote school, offer you thousands of dollars to, get in that transfer portal, Alcorn ain't that school. That's not what we're building our team around. If you come to Alcorn for the money, that it's probably not the place for you. So that's the way we build a team, man. If you're here for that, then you won't be here. A couple of guys work their tails off, and we do have a very good collective and alumni groups that really try to help us with anything that we may need. But it's Alcorn, man. It's about family. It's not about money here. If you went to Alcorn and you think we the richest school in America, I don't think you was here very long. So we build this program, this culture here is built off family and family values. So that's kind of how we operate.
We're talking with Braves defensive coordinator Deion Roberson. Coach, you talked about the back end and in the middle, and we'll kind of revisit that. Just give us your front line up front. Talk about the guys. If you had to start the season today, who are some of your guys up front? We look bigger up front. Did you feel like we had to get bigger on that on your defensive line? Were you satisfied with size? Did you go a little bit wider, taller? What was your assessment of your line last year and what you look for this year in terms of size and depth?
Well, this year is more about building depth. I look at those guys that started for us last year. You got Gideon Spotsville, Caden Kennedy. You had Jaden Boast out there. You talking about guys that are coming back. Those guys were pretty doggone good football players. But the question, the problem was the depth. So you can have 3 or 4 really good defensive linemen, but at any level of football, you talking about the group that rotates the most in this defensive line. So you need 8 or 9 defensive linemen who can really go. We talking about and do different things. So that's what we have now. We have 8 or 9 guys. Not the 3 I already mentioned. Then you add a Roscoe Merrill. You add a Deshaun Palmer. You add a EJ. The interior guy transferred from Mississippi Valley, been great for us. Guy who actually came over as a walk-on and in the second rotation right now. But all those guys are 300-pounders, which are good, but they're not slugs. You're talking about active 300-pound guys that can get up the street, still pass rush on first and second down. And we got a group of ends that can go out there on third and fourth down and shut the lights off. In Eric Thomas and Tobias Hinton and Kenny McCanstry. We moved Gideon Spotsville to more natural tweener spots. So he's going to be playing some 3 technique and some defensive end right now. So you talking about the depth that we building out there. The Chris Walleys, they really growing. And you talking about, again, more guys pushing each other. You grow that depth. Football is one with depth. You can have a great 11 guys out there, but if you ain't hitting that 18 or 22 guys that you ain't afraid to put out there as a whole defense, it's going to be a rough season for you.
Well, Coach, there was a question that just came in. Coach, you feel like you have the tools to apply more pressure on the quarterback for this season?
Most definitely. It ain't all going to be man pressure either. We're building stuff right now. That's why the days are so long. We're building diverse packages of pressure. It might be 4 people rushing, but you got to find where that 4th guy coming from. might be 5 guy rushing, but you got to find where those extra 2 guys are coming from. So that's more about what I'm doing right now. I done kind of figured out what the guys are really good at. So now I'm just tweaking with these packages and how to use this personnel that I keep talking about, how to use them effectively and put those guys in position where they can max out their full potential. But
You know,
yes,
some
there will be definitely more pressure that you'll see this year.
I know people have asked me about this. There are times in which we had like a 3-man front.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that, coach, and because people were kind of like, you only rushing 3, you got a lot on the second level and in the secondary. But I guess the assumption for people is that you got a 4-man front, you got a little bit more push. But there were some times we had 3 guys rushing. Talk about that, and that's something we'll see some of this year.
Yeah, it's situational football. That 3 down line, you'll see those 4 eyes in there. That's more of a run stopping defense. If you look at it, yeah, it's drop 8 or drop 7 versus pass. But if you run that ball in there, you'll see that it's really a 8-man box. So an 8-man drop can turn to 8-man box, depending on what the offense is doing. That's just a scheme of one particular play call. But if you look through that film, we probably run every possible front in the handbook of football. You're gonna see some bare front, you're gonna see some 4-down front, some 3-down front, different variations of 3 and 4-down front. You're gonna see a lot of movement. And again, I'm gonna bring that 4th rusher from somewhere. It's your job to find it.
just gotta know where that is, and hopefully we can definitely get to the quarterback. On the back end, Coach Thomas talked about being a little taller on the back end, the corners and safeties. Just talk about going through that process and being a little bit taller on the back end. He even mentioned a height requirement. I mean, if they weren't this height, if they were shorter than this height, then you're looking in another direction. Talk about that philosophy and wanting to change that up.
I mean, at the end of the day, they gotta be good football players. We can say tall, weigh a lot. Yeah, they are taller. They do weigh, more than those guys from last year. They also good football players. And I don't want to get that confused that we then got so big and tall and bigger, and we're just recruiting size and not talent. So the first thing, those guys are super talented. But I probably started 3 corners last year were all under 5'10", 5'9". So you think about T. Haney, who's probably 6'1.5", 6'2". Patrick Kent's on the other side is all of 6'3", long and lean. RJ is around that 6-foot world. The smallest of the group is, we call him young gunner, Jacoby Anderson. He's probably in that 5'11", 5'10" world, but you talking about moves like a cat. That kid probably one of the fastest dudes on the field, probably one of the most agile dudes on the field out of New Orleans. And so you can be smaller, but you need to be jumping out the gym. You need to have a thicker frame, and you need to be able to move in space. And Jacoby does all that, and all those other guys. You talking about older guys like RJ, like Patrick Kent, like T. Haney, like Chris Barnett, or the bigger guys who can reach over and touch you through the screen right now, Miss Charles. If I brought Patrick Kent in here, he'll probably be able to reach through this Zoom call and touch you. So, and again, good football players. So that's kind of where we went. We just really, beat down some doors, and my assistant coaches and Coach Thomas and all the guys, they did a great job recruiting this year. So, excited about those corners, man. And at the safety spot with Jeff and Elijah Ruffin and Tariq Snow and C.J. McKinney and who am I missing? Oh, T.J. Jasper. Yeah, all those dudes, man, all around that 6'1" world, sitting at about 200 pounds each. So they can take a little thumping and they can give a little thumping. And I think that's going to be huge as far as getting through the whole season. You can have a smaller guy, but the knock on a smaller guy, sometimes those smaller frames can't take the beating of a 14-game schedule.
And then it's Demarion Edwards, Coach. Just you talk about guys coming back, and you just talk about having him back in the fold.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. He know this was home. Ain't got to say much there. He know, everybody knows Demarion Edwards type of dude he is. And you can't never get too far away from home. And the biggest thing is, I went to the guys, man. I asked the guys how would they feel about it, and they was chomping at the bit to get their big brother back. So he back. He's taking that OG role of kind of just quietly leading the pack, making sure all the young guys and the next generation of Alcorn State Braves um, uphold that standard. So I don't think he's going to be as vocal this year, but he's behind the scenes making sure that the Eric Thomases of the world, the T. Haneys of the world, the Gideon Spotsvilles of the world, he's making sure those guys feel comfortable leading the pack. And he's just kind of being that old guy in the chair, to sit at the end of the table to kind of keep everybody straight, make sure the family good. But he let those youngsters kind of have their way and lead the pack, man. And it's great to see him and Jaquez do, two of the oldest guys on the team. Him, Jaquez do, and Markel McLaurin are probably three of the oldest dudes on the team. And it's kind of fun seeing those dudes kind of hanging back and cheering on the young guys and motivating them and teaching them how to lead, while also kind of taking a step back themselves and letting those, the Gideons and the T. Haines and the Eric Thomas kind of lead this team.
We talked about Malachi Bailey earlier. How tough was that when obviously losing him? And then is there a player or players that are kind of coming along and being that Malachi Bailey, that disruptor, that guy that can just shut it down? Because we know what he did when he was here. Is there a guy that's in that role, or do you see guys that are slowly filling that role?
Well, Malachi Bailey is a forever Alcorn State Brave. He'll tell you that right now if you called him. And it was one of those deals where the rule let him get that extra year. But Malachi Bailey graduated Alcorn State Brave. And he got that extra year back. And just like Stamarian Edwards, he was like, hey, coach, let me see what's out here. Both of those dudes, first team all-conference guys, both those guys, close to breaking records here at Alcorn State University. So we let them do it. Like, hey, man, if you find a better opportunity out there, go for it. And Malachi was lucky enough and worked his butt off enough to earn a spot, at a little bit better, position for himself. And, we definitely can't be upset at that. He's well taken care of up there. And I wish him all the best. But I think that it's going to be more of a group effort this year. It might not be 10, 11, 12 sacks from one guy, even though I think we definitely got, a couple of dudes now who can hit those numbers. I think it's going to be a little bit more spread out, kind of like when I played. I didn't have no crazy sack numbers, but we ended that year with about 44, 45 sacks as a team. And I think that's what it's going to be. I think, the way I'm going to call it and the way, I plan on getting after people, it's going to be a linebacker over here with 5. It's going to be a DN. It's going to be a bandit or other DN or outside linebacker with 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think that's kind of really where you want to be. You don't know where it's coming from. There's nobody to game plan for. There's nobody to slide their protection to. So now, again, you have to figure out where that rush is coming from. And I'm pretty sure by the end of these 14 games that everybody will know, who that guy, who those guys are. I'm pretty sure those guys are ready to push out their resume.
And you talked about your defense, and you talked about the intensity of practice and just trying to get in the best shape you possibly can, because our bye week is early in the season. Our bye week is in the month of September. We've got 8, 9 in a row after that. And so you're going to get an early break, but after that, you have gas on your shirt. It's like going full gas with this, because that break is early and you got to be ready each and every week. Got the first 4 games on the road, got a trip to Tallahassee on their homecoming. That's going to be interesting. Every game is going to be a challenge regardless. This Northwestern State team hasn't won a game in 2 years, but does that matter with 50 freshmen? We'll talk about that a little bit, but each and every week you got to come with it, whether conference games or not. We have a very interesting schedule. Could be a good thing for us if we can get off to a good start, but it's going to be a challenge. Nothing's going to be handed to us on either side of the ball.
No, we're not taking no handouts this year. Again, I go back to the coaching in the league and the competition in this league. It's high. It's any man's games any year in the SWAC. You don't really know who teams are until probably the last 3 weeks of the season. You look at the last 2 years, Alcorn was a game off from playing their championship game. And the competition in the league and, the way those games fell at the end, we looking around at our guys like, hey, do we want to control that destiny or do we want to have our destiny controlled? So I think, going through that with the guys for the last year or two is kind of their extra motivation to make sure we push through every game like it's championship game. It don't matter if it's week one or the last game of the season. Those guys are going to push, and that's what training camp about, pushing through those tough games. Not only the tough game, it's the trap games too, like a Northwestern who, I'm not calling them trap game. They're a well-coached squad. But, if you take a game off, man, that can be your season, even going into, the conference play. Every team on our schedule, we can beat them or they can beat us. It's simple as that. So that's the mindset every week. It's a new week every week. We got to clean that slate off, and we just looking to go 1-0 every week.
Yeah, that's the key. I've heard that so many times, going 1-0 each week, and then they pile up at the end. We're talking with Braves defensive coordinator Deion Roberson. We've got some time here. You can text a question 601-301-2611. We'll get to the text questions coming up here in a moment. But Coach, I know you want to give love to your staff. You got an addition. You got Coach Fosselman that just started. You got Dwayne Taylor. Just talk about the guys on your staff that have been able to step up and really do a good job in their particular units on defense.
Oh, the whole crew. They know they my guys to the end. Of course, Dwayne Taylor been here, rocking out. I think the long between him and Coach Cub got here around the same time. But Dwayne Taylor is stepping up. Again, we all learning and growing. I think that's the biggest thing with my coaching staff. We're not setting our ways, and we're younger staff. We're not young, but you look around, we're all in our 30s, early 30s, and we're thirsty for knowledge. It's always something new every day. We watch film here together every day, and we talking technique. So you have Coach Taylor, who's the corners coach, be asking Coach Cub about a certain defensive line technique. And next thing you know, I call that corner fire, and you see that corner using that hand combination that he might ask Coach Taylor about or Coach Cub about a couple of days before. So you see we're learning together. Coach Cub, probably one of the toughest dudes I know. He don't say much, but when he talk, the guys listen. And I think that's important to have. But he's a guy with a lot of grit. And that's how our defensive line play. They play tough and they gritty, and they gonna fight you. Not in the physical sense, but they gonna put hands on you. They gonna put feet on you. Whatever they need to do to get the job done, they willing to do it. Coach Fosselman is the new guy, but he's the live wire. And the crazy part about it, he's my my elder statesman. I would say he's the OG of the group, and he's probably the fiery of all of us. You talking about striking that pilot light? It's gonna be a couple of games where I'm not gonna have to do it. Coach Fosselman don't mind at any point in time, man. But I love that dude. He's been a coordinator in this league for a long time. He has a wealth of knowledge to him, not just about football but about life. He's been in this conference, so he can give me little tips and reminders here and there. He knows how to run it. He's also one of the guys that made me feel comfortable enough to actually move up to the booth this year and kind of let him run my sideline with him and between him and Coach Thomas and Coach Cove will be down there this year. I'd be able to move up to the box this year and get a little bit better view and be able to call and see where my guys are and, fix problems from up there and trust him to kind of make the adjustments down on the field level. Coach McCullough just joined the staff. He's going to be our nickels coach. He's helping out Coach Thomas with the nickels and safeties. Great young coach. It's kind of my deal. He's now part of my coaching tree. I claim him as my own. So it's great. Him and Equandrick Ross actually also joined the staff as a GA. So he'd be coming on, helping us out also. He's one of my linebackers from last year. You call him right now, tell him he's my favorite, even when he was a player. Like, hey, you my favorite player, man, just because of the person he was. He was a great person, man. Whether he was playing or not, special teams, he was great. So he's one of my favorite guys. So I love all them dudes, man. They handle business. They treat their guys well. I'm big on that. I'm hard on my coaches. I'm super hard on my coaches. I be more hard on my coaches than I do my players, because again, from what I said earlier, the players are a reflection of their coach.
Yeah.
Overall, a reflection of me as a defense coordinator, but as a position coach, your position is going to take the personality of you. Either you coaching it or you're allowing it. So my coaches understand that, and again, I'm hard on them, but they also know I give them the shirt off my back right now if they needed it.
Well, here's a trick question for you, Coach. Probably the hardest question you'll have. Which coach is more the live wire, Coach Thomas or Coach Fosselman?
Ooh, I'm gonna say Coach Falsman just because he hit the ground running, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, I've never seen a man, and you talking about a special team coordinator. I'm just talking about his defensive guy, but special team coordinator, ooh, that man, he don't play no games. He love the
Hmm.
guys. He chop it up with the dudes. They know he love them. Uh, but you talking about hit the ground running,
Yeah.
and it bring a whole nother intensity to our special teams. He's a really good coach. But we all know Coach Thomas, man. He know how to talk to your soul. Like Coach Thomas, he whisper in your ear like one of them ancestors. Like, it don't take much. It take about 2 sentences from Coach Thomas to get a fire lit under anybody. But
But with
Coach
Coach
Foster
Fosselman,
definitely,
it is business. It's all about. That's the one
yeah,
thing I'm learning now. It's all about business. You're not out here goofing around.
yep. We call it workers man mentality. That's our
Yeah.
mentality on defense. I tell the guys, if we don't work, somebody don't eat. And that's about life. It ain't just about football. As young men, we have to get up and be used to going to work and fighting through ailments, fighting through pain, knowing the difference between being injured and being hurt, and being able to get up no matter what we're feeling like and go to work and clock in. So we call it a workers man mentality.
We're talking with Braves defensive coordinator, Coach Deion Roberson joining
There
us
you go.
here. I keep saying Coach Rowe because I just it's etched in my Coach Rowe, Coach Rowe, Coach Rowe, Deion Roberson. That's why I had to catch myself. Coach, a couple of questions from the text line. Joshua Davis Jr. text, Coach, will our 2025 defensive unit be able to get to the quarterback as well as create turnovers by way of interception, giving the ball back to the offense?
That's definitely the plan. Uh, you know, we definitely ain't gonna put a number on the interceptions or tell you what we gonna do. Because the season and the film gonna prove what we gonna do. But I can tell you what we plan on doing, and it's getting out the quarterbacks and it's turning that ball over. That's our job.
And also part two of that question from Joshua Davis Jr. We appreciate it. You talked about some of the new defensive players we should be looking out for this season.
Yeah, a lot of them are returning guys. Eric Thomas. You talking about guys who played last year but didn't have a huge role. Eric Thomas is going to be one of those guys. Tobias Hinton, Roscoe, and Said Roberts, and a lot of those guys on the back end. We kind of that's probably where we took our biggest hit last year as far as guys graduating and reaching the end of their eligibility was the back end. So that whole crew back there is going to be a lot of new faces and jersey numbers. They're going to have to show y'all. They're going to have to prove it to y'all. So we'll know after that first couple of games who those impact players will be. But because of the new guys coming in, I want to see it against somebody else before I tag them as the impact players of the year.
Well, Coach, there's a question right here for you from Quentin Major. And you talked about being in the booth. I was going to ask you about that. How is being in the booth different from being on the field? You've been on the field, of course, in the past. And is that a
Mm-hmm.
big change from last season? Talk about that process to move upstairs.
It's all about seeing the field. Like I said, I'm more of an analytical guy. Being on the sidelines, you get to look in those guys' eyes and you can tell, where they are mentally. Because you can get a guy on that headset and he can say, "Yeah, I'm good, coach. I know exactly what's going on." And you look him in the eyes and he's on a different
Deer in
planet
headlights?
somewhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's really why I was kind of hesitant to move. But with having another year with my whole staff and trusting those guys to give those guys the same looks and ask the same questions that I would ask on the sideline, and be able to pick up their whiteboard and draw those schemes up on their whiteboard on the sideline. That's very important to be able to make in-game adjustments in between those defensive series. So you got to have a couple of guys that you trust down there to really get those messages across and make sure they handling the guys the right way. And I trust my guys wholeheartedly. So I'm going to the booth where I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable. I think my play calling will improve up there just because I'll be able to see the whole picture. I'll be able to see that personnel coming on and off. I'll be able to see when we into the field or into the boundary. I'll be able to see when we getting out leverage to the field, or again, we getting out numbered to the boundary. And I'll be able to make those corrections live, as opposed to, having to get that iPad with the tablet and the pictures that may work, may not work, So I have a consistent view of what's going on with all 11 of my guys.
It's a good question. I was going to follow up with that, but I was beat to it. So I appreciate the question there. Another question, Coach, from the text line. What trials did you have to overcome as a new defensive coordinator last year? Trials and tribulations.
It's hard to call football games. I'm gonna be honest with you. And it's, again, one of those things where you that drive on the passenger side, and you think it's easy to drive this car till it's time to merge onto this expressway, and everybody going 80, 70 miles per hour. That's scary. I know when I first got my license, I had to pull over to the emergency lane, merging onto the expressway. Those cars was moving so fast, I didn't know how to get that speed up and merge on over. But my mentor kind of saved me, man. He brought me in and he raised me up the right way. He kind of threw me in the deep end, but at the same time, he was standing at the edge with that floating. Like, hey, if I see you drowning too much, I can throw this thing out there for you. And slowly but surely, I learned how to swim. But it's not easy. As a first-time coordinator, a lot of guys think it's easy. A lot of people at home, I've been one of those guys that question the call, not verbally or out loud, but in my mind say, man, I can call that, if you're going to call that. Not Coach Thomas now, but everybody had those moments where they think they can do something, or they think it look easy, and you get out there and, it's not as easy as you think, And we talking about just calling it on game day. We're not talking about the 6 days of preparation that goes into calling it on game day. So it was an easy transition. But I learned, like I said, I'm forever growing, and I do think that this year is going to be better than last year. There's no doubt about that. But how good, is still yet to be seen. Like Coach said, it's a prove-it year for us, and I'm willing to prove it.
Braves fans are chomping at the bit. The way last year ended, people still talking about that. At the same time, you got to lean forward and get ready for this tough stretch coming up to start this season. I mean, you keep up with what's going on in the conference. How confident are you that we can get to where Braves fans expect us to be? I mean, Southern University won the Western Division. Obviously, we kind of had Southern there a little bit. In Baton Rouge, they're coming to us in November. That's going to be interesting. That Southern Grambling Jackson stretch at the end of the season could be interesting, but to set that up, we got to get it done in September with UAPB. We got Alabama A&M. Obviously, Prairie View at home, our first home game. We go to Florida A&M on their homecoming. That's going to be interesting. So there's a lot of work to be done at the end, but we've got to be able to start fast. What would you say to Braves fans in terms of, hey, we're going to get back there? What would you say to Braves fans about that?
Allow us to prove it. Allow us to prove it. Whether it's HBCU Go, whether it's SWAC TV, whether it's YouTube, whether it's ESPN games, whether it's you there in person watching us live, which we would love for you to buy season tickets. But let us prove it to you. I'm not gonna write no check that I can't cash at the end of the season. So all I'm gonna say is give us a chance to show that we are Alcorn State University, and support us, and we would definitely do our best to take this thing back to the top.
Yeah, we're just used to being. I mean, we won 6 straight division titles. First 2 SWAC championship games on campus we hosted. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Coach. Personally, I was spoiled going to the Celebration Bowl 3 times, getting the gift suite and all that. All that sounds sweet, but there's a lot of work that goes into that, and there's a lot of steps you have to take. And it starts against Northwestern State, and it starts really this week you got a scrimmage coming up, and then you got another scrimmage next week, and you get ready. What's the schedule like here over the next few days? Just business as usual. Classes are going to be starting next week. Just kind of honing in on getting players acclimated to the academic side of it.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm one of those guys that live day by day. So if we got a scrimmage this Saturday, I wouldn't go no till Friday. I live where my feet are planted at. So I take this thing day by day. And stacking days is the motto. So as we lead into it, of course, once school starts, we'll kind of taper back on those night meetings and things like that. But it's still, then it become a mental game. Now it's going to be up top. We done got the body together. They in great shape. Coach Gann has done a great job in the weight room. Those guys, even the guys that are returning, are bigger and better because of what Coach Gann is able to do in the weight room and conditioning, and they're busting their tail out there on the football field to get in football shape. But now it's about honing in on the mental. So it's all upstairs now. It's not going to be 45 minutes of Indy, or we can go through every little detail like it was over the summer and in the spring and in training camp. Now it's going to be pedal to the metal for 14 weeks trying to get back to the top of the hill.
Good stuff. Coach Deion Roberson joining us. Coach, we really appreciate it. Glad you can take time out of your schedule, and we'll be talking again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Coach Deion Roberson, always busy, always got a lot going on. We appreciate him taking time out of his schedule. Speaking of schedules, next Monday we'll be at the Rooftop in downtown Vicksburg with the 1871 Collective. Plenty of interviews, plenty of conversation talking about the collective. Coach Cedric Thomas will be there. And that'll kind of start our Cedric Thomas show next Monday night at 6 o'clock at the Rooftop in downtown Vicksburg. For our producer, Cedric Tillman, Jamario Brooks, we appreciate Coach Deion Roberson. I'm Charles Edmond, inside Braves Athletics. We'll talk to you Monday night from Vicksburg. So long.